Welcome to Fanboy Critic, our show where we go see new movies on theaters and give you our review.
Both the good and the bad. I'm Joe Mortiz and I'll be your fanboy.
And I'm Sam Wike-McClure. I'll be your critic. This week on Fanboy and Critic, we went to go see... What did we go see?
Flying to the Moon.
Fly to the Moon. Yes, this week on Fanboy and Critic, we went to go see Fly Me to the Moon. Starring Channing Tatum, Scarlett Johansson, Anna Garcia, Jim Rash, Woody Harrelson, and Ray Romano, and directed by Greg Berlanti of CW fame. He did all the CW superhero shows.
Oh.
I work here now to sell the movie.
Berlanti, I don't know if it's technically his first film, but this is the first one I know that he's directed. What did he do well coming to the big screen?
Let's start off with the cast. I think the cast was really good. I mean, the lead roles were Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. And I feel like these two were like... We haven't seen them in anything like this in a while, I feel like. Well, playing somewhat of a serious role, I guess. But Scarlett... I just forget how good she is. I've seen so much of her in Marvel that, like, you forget that she could play another role other than whatever her name is. But, yeah, I think she was definitely my favorite character in this movie. Just the way she went about things, and she snaked her way throughout this entire thing, and it was great. And Channing Tatum, he was good, too. I have no complaints there. But the writing was really good. I thought the writing was good. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, like
I'm gonna have something else to say.
Yeah, I really liked all the lines, and it's funny that you mentioned that he did like stuff for TV, because I feel like all the comedy in it was something you could expect from a TV show.
Yeah. And
that's the type of person I laugh at everything. So like anything he was coming out with, like, and it's just those short jokes that make you like just giggle a little bit, and that's what I really enjoyed too. Did I hate anything about it? Not really. I mean, it was overall good. I think it was just overall good for me.
Okay. It was overall bad for me. It wasn't terrible. I like the actors. I do think the sensibility of Greg Berlanti didn't lend itself to a big screen. It felt like It felt very much like this felt like TV.
It should have been on the Apple.
Just like the way it was shot.
Yeah.
It wasn't consistent with like the camera, like the type of camera shots, even the types of cameras. There's parts where they went back and forth, but it wasn't an artistic choice. It didn't feel like. It felt like they were trying to do the same thing, but they were not consistent. Yeah, they were not consistent with what they were doing visually.
I can see it.
I feel like the dialogue was really stilted and fast. Like the characters made choices and like said things that made no sense, except like this is the part of the movie where they're supposed to do that. Especially with like the romance between Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. It was just like, okay, I haven't seen their characters grow in any sort of romantic way. Now they're just now kiss. Like,
very true. Very true.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it started off strong, and like it just showed how serious these two were about their work, and it just kind of split throughout the movie.
I didn't think it started out strong either. Their meet cute I didn't think was that good.
What? That's so.
It was good until he went back and said the second thing. Or like they made him go back and say an additional thing.
That's funny. I really liked it.
I hated that. It felt so out of character for not only for the guy who I understood that was already in the movie, but then who he even revealed himself to be further in the movie. It felt so out of character. The characters weren't consistent. The visuals weren't consistent. I don't think the dialogue was consistent. Their theme was very muddled. It was a lot about manipulation versus being earnest and telling the truth and winning through truth. Yeah. And obviously, as every movie, like any sort of moral movie, lands on telling the truth is the better way to go. But that's just what they say. They verbally say telling the truth is the best way. Yeah. And then they go about all of their actions is lying and manipulating people. And like, okay, so what was the point? The story, they didn't choose one. There was like 3 or 4 stories going on.
Very true. There was a lot going on. But then, at the end of the day, there was that main thing, it's getting to the moon and recording. Or not necessarily. But
that would have been a great moral. That would have been a great story. If the story was, okay, we faked the moon landing just to make sure that we had a happy ending for this. that would have been one complete story with all the little side parts, and you give more space and more time for the romance to grow and characters to grow.
I guess they did zigzag all their way up.
Yeah, but it started off with how do we get the American people back on board with the space program?
Yeah.
That's a completely different story. And then they kind of swerved to how do we get the proper votes to get the funding for the space program? And then how do we fake the moon landing? So it was 3 different stories at least. And they it's very inconsistent. They didn't know what story they wanted to tell. They didn't know what tone they wanted to take. You know, I got whiplash. One scene was supposed to be dramatic. One scene was supposed to be romantic, comedic, you know, inspiring. But like they didn't really hit any of those notes solidly. It all felt kind of blunted to me. Like
they were just throwing at it.
Yeah.
Like every scene was different and everything was. Yeah, I get it.
I'm not saying a movie can't be more than one thing.
Yeah.
But
the execution
wasn't there for any of those things. They couldn't decide what they wanted to do with this movie on pretty much all fronts. And I think it mainly comes down to Greg Berlanti, who I love the Arrowverse stuff on CW, most of it. So I don't think this is. I don't dislike him as a creative, but I don't think maybe the big screen maybe is not his specialty. Yeah, forte. For the critics at home, get them to go see Fly Me to the Moon.
Critics, go watch this movie because you can finally see the truth behind how we filmed being on the moon. I'm just kidding. It's fiction, right? It's fiction. We actually landed on the moon, but yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting story just to get your mind kind of boggling. Like, hey, did this really happen? Is this how they did it? And that's kind of what intrigued me to go watch this film. And what intrigued me afterwards, it just really makes you think, like, did we land on the moon? Did we have this technology to record? Like, did this all really happen? Watch it because of that.
Fanboys.
It's really the fanboys that don't think we landed on the moon.
Yeah. Fanboys, you know, I don't know. There's better space movies out there. Not currently in theaters, but I don't know. What do you want me to say? I gave you all the reasons in the previous section why I didn't like it. Everything was subpar as far as what they were intending to do. I just don't think they hit anything out of the park. Specifically, even the acting, which I don't blame the actors, I think it was more the director didn't direct them well enough, because a lot of their lines, especially the inspirational stuff, the speeches, felt very just spat out. Like, I'm gonna say this. I'm like, this is an emotional moment. Take your time, chew on those words, take some breaths in there. And it was all just kind of blah. Your rating. I feel like I know where you're at.
Don't do it to me.
Do it.
All right, critics, fanboys.
Fully back up your statements with your rating.
Where am I at with this? I really like the acting. I really like those two. It was a good duo. You know what I'm gonna like? I'm just out of like. I do. You know, I do somewhat agree with everything you said, but yeah, I liked it. I think there's just those two, Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. I think I was just so committed to their characters. Like, I just really liked them. Like, I don't know if it's because it was a fresh start for them and it was something different, and I was just so into those two characters. Specifically Scarlett Johansson. Her character is awesome. But yeah, I don't know if that's what it is. And, you know, just the theory behind the whole film kind of intrigues me too. But I'm out of like, it wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. That's all I can say.
All right, you agreed with my points. You just don't feel as strongly about it. I mean, I'm here to be the counterpoint and to be negative. That's the critic's job. I'm just gonna go with the why. I don't know why you would put. I mean, a movie takes a lot of energy and effort and money and time. Why you would put all that in if you didn't have a strong inclination towards the visuals, the tone, the story, even the story you're trying to tell, the characters for the most part, except for Scarlett Johansson, had really not that much character going on. Scarlett Johansson and Jim Rash had very strong character. Yeah. I think that just has to do with the actors. But everybody else could have been played by anybody. Yeah. Even beloved Channing Tatum. He could have been played by... What? You know what? I would replace him with The Rock next time. Or Kevin Hart.
You know what? I'm starting to believe that like maybe this was not theater worthy.
Oh yeah, it could have
It should have stayed on Apple TV.
Yeah, it could have been a fun little like short like.
I might have enjoyed it at home while I'd be on my phone and looking at this movie.
Yeah, maybe a 6 episode like mini show. Like I can see that, especially with the different storylines that they like kind of start. Like a show can kind of shift like that a little bit easier. Maybe that's what the intention was.
Yeah, they thought it was going to push it further into the theaters.
I feel like some of the special effects and stuff, they're like, okay, we got to make our money back.
Oh yeah, the alligator alley, that was terrible.
Those effects were not great.
I was like, those are the worst looking alligators ever.
It was really unnecessary too. Nobody needed that.
It was.
All right, fanboys and critics, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Follow the link. We're starting a separate fanboy and critic channel to kind of separate the movie stuff from the gaming stuff. So go over there and subscribe because eventually this is all going to be over there. And check us out next week for Twisters.
And we'll see you for the next review.
Whew, that was a lot of words. All right, Jay.
You ripped them. I'm putting you in. No.
It wasn't as bad as Horizon.